your favorite Scream movie?
Hi guys, and welcome to Real Food. In anticipation of Scream 6, join me while I rank all of the Scream films. In the last spot, number 5 is Scream 2022. This is the only film not directed by Wes Craven, R.I.P. And unfortunately, there are a lot of parts of this movie which are both bad and boring. Let's start with the tone. The tone is incredibly sad. There is so much crying in this Scream movie that is just not what I want from my horror films. You've also got a lot of violence and gore and stabbing, especially relative to the first movie, which again is just a little bit too much for me. In terms of performances, the lead actress, Melissa Barrero, cannot carry the film. You've also got performances by Jack Quaid, who I do not find terribly captivating. There is another character who is digitally de-aged. There is some uncanny and creepy CG, which just does not work. Because this is a Scream movie, there are, of course, some meta moments, in particular some moments that comment on horror tropes. For example, pulling open fridges and doors and expecting someone to pop up behind, but these moments simply do not land for me. But of course, because it is a Scream movie, even at its worst, it is not that bad. There are some memorable moments, in particular the opening scene. You have Ghostface on the outside, a damsel in distress on the inside, only this time because it's 2022, they are commenting on the technology of the day, which is of course smart technology, the ability to lock and unlock our front doors using our cell phones, which is pretty clever and creepy and really builds the tension. You also have Dewey, played by David Arquette, giving his best and most nuanced performance in this movie.
Hello, Sydney. It's an honor.
In spot number 4, Scream 2, released in 1997, only one short year after the original Scream movie was released. In this movie, Gale Weathers has written a book on the Woodsboro murders, and again, only one short year after those murders take place, this book is being turned into a movie. Meta upon meta upon meta. Instead of in high school, Sydney is now in college with her new crew, and in that crew we have Buffy, aka Sarah Michelle Gellar, the handsome Timothy Olyphant, and wet blanket new boyfriend, Jerry O'Connell, who plays Derek. Nope, sorry, I'm going again. I will say, for many years I believed Derek to be quite boring, but upon my most recent rewatch, I do think he toes the line between is he good or is he bad quite well, which of course plays into the whodunit factor which takes place in all of the Scream films. In my opinion, this is Gale's hottest look. She is smoking. In terms of other elements that are both boring and bad, unfortunately this movie feels way too long and drawn out. In particular, there are parts of the plot that revolve around Sydney, who's in theater class doing a play, Agamemnon. They are drawing parallels between the play and her real life. She is having long conversations with her theater teacher, who's an old famous actor who I don't know. A lot of it was just lost on me, and so I found that part long and boring. But again, because it's Scream, even its worst moments are not that bad. These theater elements and play elements are actually used quite effectively and pretty integral to the plot. So all in all, not a bad movie. In spot number 3, you have Scream 4. Released in 2011, at the beginning of this movie, Sydney is finally the one to be monetizing her own trauma. She has released a book and is returning to Woodsboro on a book tour when, don't you know, Ghostface emerges again and people start getting murdered. This feels reminiscent to the first Scream in a lot of ways. You've got Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, But much like the first film, it also focuses on a group of teenagers, one of whom is Sydney's cousin, played by Emma Roberts. In this film, given that it's 15 years after the first, being a cinemaphile or a cinema nerd is actually cool. And so Gale Weathers actually has to weasel her way into the cinema club, and they inform her that the murders are following the rules of a horror movie remake. That means the murders are being patterned after the murders in the first Stab movie. And because this film is meta upon meta upon meta, of course that means we get a lot of set pieces and scenes which are reminiscent of previous Scream films. Should I do that again? In terms of memorable moments, you have the character Kirby, played by Hayden Panettiere. So cool, absolutely glowing. I do not believe that a person that age would be that cool, but she sells it. And in terms of moments that are bad and boring, I'm sorry, but Emma Roberts simply does not sell it for me. Her performance is unbelievable and over the top. In spot number 2, we have Scream 3. Released in the year 2000, directed again by Wes Craven, but this time written by Aaron Kruger. The movie takes place in Hollywood, on the set of the most recent Stab movie, where the actors are being targeted. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for putting this movie at number 2. It has the worst IMDb rating out of all of the Scream movies at a 5.6. However, I love this movie because it is both equal parts horror and comedy. I am willing to admit there are some parts of this movie which are both boring and bad. Let's just start with Courtney Cox's bangs. Wow. What is with bangs in the late 90s, early 2000s when they are like half an inch short? Buffy, again, I'm looking at you. You did it too. There are also sequences with ghostly Maureen Prescott, aka Sydney's mom, and I just do not feel like these supernatural moments fit in a typical Scream movie. You also have unforgettable performances by Parker Posey as Gale in the Stab movies, and the incredible chemistry she has with her Hollywood bodyguard, portrayed by Patrick Warburton. Of course, there are some unforgettable Hollywood set pieces as well, in particular a replica of Sydney's house from Woodsboro, where of course Ghostface appears and wreaks havoc. And because it's a Scream movie, you know it has to comment on the latest technology. There is a wonderful, hilarious scene involving a fax machine. That's all I wanted to say.
Scream 3. Don't panic.
You also have another iconic kill scene in a two-way mirror. You also have an iconic kill in a two-way set mirror piece. In a two-way set and a two-way mirror set piece. You better not include that. Do I even need to have that in there? Why don't I just have the... In spot number 1, no surprise to anyone, is Scream, the original, released in 1996. And this movie... For the first time, you've got Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson. This movie, like all Scream movies, okay. This is one of the first horror movies to be meta and self-referential. It cleverly comments on horror movies' rules and tropes. However, even if you don't know all of those horror movie tropes, you can still follow along and enjoy this movie. It works on so many levels. There is also a whodunit component to this film and a million different red herrings thrown at you. In addition, you have familiar actors and many different cameos. The best cameo in this movie, of course, going to Wes Craven, who plays Fred, the janitor, in a green and red sweater. Because it's a Scream movie, of course they comment on technology. In 1996, it is quite novel that somebody could be outside your house calling from a cell phone. Spooky. Gale Weathers is her best in this movie, power tripping in an incredible highlighter green suit. She is falling madly in love both on screen and off screen with Dewey, again played by David Arquette, meta upon meta upon meta. And of course, you have a performance of Sydney by Neve Campbell, which is both down to earth and relatable. I have no complaints about this movie. It is my ideal horror movie.
Not scared, are you? Scream.
That's my rank. Can't wait to see Scream 6. Hasta la bye bye! What's that?